They trained me to land problems on charts and make them give up, not to argue with a sky that edits itself. We were running a quiet night. No tour groups, no press drop-ins, just my skeleton crew, a 14-inch reflector with a piggyback thermal, the star tracker, and the usual wall of monitors that pretend to be brave. I'm 45, test director, X, flight dynamics. The plan was to show the juniors how to log the object without turning it into a myth. Behavior over names. Then the stars behind it went missing. Not dimmed. Erased. We had Comet 31 Atlas clean in the main tube, coma crisp, tail a pale brushstroke. A black wedge appeared trailing it by a fixed angle. No glow, no penumbra. Just a slice of night darker than night that moved as the object moved and unwrote stars that should have been safe. As the tail drifted past a dense patch, whole chains of faint suns simply stopped existing in our frame. The star tracker swore error equals 0, the kind of perfect you only see in sales decks. And yet the field dissolved the moment we tried to solve it. Matteo lowered his voice like we were in church. Sir, background loss. Leah leaned in to mark the time. The digital timestamp on her screen winked, then gently replaced itself with a dash like it had a better appointment. The spectrum collapsed its friendly snow into a thin, surgical tone, precise as a wire. Then it learned a cadence that wasn't breathing. It stepped through intervals like a machine tasting syllables. Against my better judgment, I whispered, "What is that?" The tone shifted up a hair, tilted, like it listened. A half-beat later the intercom answered in my voice, calm as a nurse. Eyes forward. "Do not trace the tail." No one laughed. Leah's cursor drifted a quarter beat ahead of her hand, nudging toward the backtrace control. She snatched her palm away like the mouse had teeth. I tapped the thermal feed. Instead of hot dust, our auxiliary camera showed an outline of cold, a moving absence that hugged the path behind the coma at a constant separation, cooler than the night around it, like active cold. When the object rose, the wedge rose. When it slowed, the wedge waited. When the sky rotated, the wedge did not rotate with it. It held its orientation like a compass that had married a disobedient star. The building door chime at the far hall played 2 notes backward, down, up, as if it had its own opinion about direction. I almost told Matteo to power cycle the tracker, then remembered the nights that taught me what not to do. No cycles, I said. No pans behind the coma. Behavior only. The tone took that sentence apart like a watch and returned none of the parts. I moved closer to the main monitor, but kept my eyes on the coma, not the darkness snipping stars behind it. This is where people get hurt by looking back. We did not call it anything. We didn't point. We logged. I am the kind of man who carries a red ink memo in his head longer than he carries friendship. Receive only. Unknowns that listen will learn. Unknowns that learn will test. Unknowns that test will measure you by your answers. Years ago, that memo kept a satellite alive. Tonight, it kept my mouth shut. The wedge trailed like a rule. The star tracker insisted on 0 error, then dumped the solution and claimed field resolved. None. The status bar had the gall to color itself green. We'd had bruises of warning all week. As the object climbed on previous nights, the SNR would dip only when we placed our window behind the coma. The thermal brought up faint scallops of cold in the path the tail had left, like frost writing notes on the sky. A receipt printer in a lab, sleeping like all good printers, woke up and spit an inch of thermal that read NA with tilde trace in a font I didn't know any of our devices owned. The building chime practiced down, up at odd hours, like the night was clearing its throat backward. But this was new. Stars vanishing and a wedge that didn't cast a shadow because a shadow assumes a source. This was erasure. "Sir, if we offset 3 degrees, Matteo began. "Eyes forward," I said. "Do not trace the—" I stopped in time. The intercom approved a half-beat later. "Eyes forward. Do not trace the tail." My voice. "Better posture." Leah swallowed. "Can cold do that?" "Cold doesn't remove," I said. "Cold reveals. This edits." On her console, the cursor twitched toward the offset buttons again before her hand even settled. She held her hands in her lap and let the room want things without her. The tone switched from intervals to a pattern that reminded me of listening. It didn't breathe, it counted. 2 short holds, a long, a pause, then a sequence that matched the slew we had not performed. Hold, I said to all of it. Nobody moves the field. Nobody names what's behind it. The printer clattered awake and slid out a fresh slip, as if I'd ordered a receipt for my thought. Do not name the follower. No timestamp. Just the words, face up, like I needed a prop for cowardice. Mateo stared at the shielded window into the dome. It's wrong not to look, he said, very gently. The way a person talks to a line they've been warned not to cross since childhood. It's wrong to make your skull a lighthouse, I said. Eyes forward. The wedge erased another tight knot of background stars, and then let them reappear as the tail moved on. No dimming of a coma. No halo change. Just on off for everything behind that shape. Leah wrote while not looking. Wedge distance steady. Wedge angle steady. Wedge orientation fixed relative to us, not to sky. Parallax test fails. Wedge refuses to obey rotation. The star tracker posted 0.00 pxRMS, and then panicked into no sky. The radio on the wall cracked open, without a hand touching it. Not 7 seconds like the old pattern. 11 seconds, dead line, carrier only, the tone writing it like etiquette. Then it hung up on us like a friend who knows if they stay you'll ask a question they won't answer. Leah looked at me, then at the intercom, then at the wedge we were not tracing. The intercom understood whom her eyes belonged to and offered the line we needed again, a promise disguised as an order. Eyes forward. Do not trace the tail. I could hear the juniors breathing, small and careful, as if they were trying not to ring any bells in the air. I kept my own breath flat. The wedge didn't care. It kept the distance. It kept the angle. It kept us. We are paid to handle things. But some nights, all you can do is not feed them. We held our gaze on the coma and watched at the edge of vision. The wedge was happiest back there in our not looking. There's action people expect, buttons, switches, cavalry. And then there's the kind that wins, small muscles obeying rules. Mateo's knee stopped bouncing because motion is language. Leah folded her hands under her thighs so the cursor would have no excuse to anticipate her. I kept my eyes where the object would be next, not where the wedge wished I'd look. Let me try a micropan, Mateo said, a whisper of betrayal to our doctrine. No, I said. We will not pull focus. The monitors froze for a heartbeat anyway, whether from his intention or the wedge's patience, ending I couldn't tell. The analog needles, kept for nostalgia and truth, sank to 0 and then remembered numbers. Our door chime played down, up again, as if the building wanted to annotate our errors. Leah, I said, print the plot frames forward of the coma. Nothing behind. She printed 3 frames of coma only, little worlds of dust pretending they didn't have company. The printer fed a 4th by itself, do not name the follower, then ejected half a blank foot as if to separate the warning from anything that might feel like data. The thermal showed the cold outline raise and lower its luminance, if you can call colder luminance, as the cadence in the tone changed. Not breathing, measuring. I think it's watching our attention, Leah said. When we hold forward, it holds shape. When we intend to pan, she didn't finish. The cursor flinched at the offset again. Thoughts down, I said. Eyes forward. The intercom, impeccable, repeated eyes forward. We did not trace the tail. We did not say the word. We watched. Something about the wedge made the room gentle. There was danger. Yes, and the kind that bruises the inside of a head. But there's also the very specific mercy of rules that work. Nobody looks. Nobody names. We let the sky pass like a river that prefers its own business. It followed for hours. I will give you the action you came for, but it will look smaller than you want. Leah's hand stopping before a button learns what a finger means. Mateo swallowing a noun. Me standing between a screen and a person who can't look away. The radio opening 11 seconds at 21 past twice, then quitting. The door chime choosing down, up only when we daydreamed about tracking behind. The star tracker playing perfect, and then confessing no sky when the wedge was present. At 3:14, the wedge erased a tight V of background lights near the coma's path. At 3:16, they came back as if a curtain had been lifted. The thermal recorded the cold shape less distinct, then crisp again, as if it had stepped from one medium to another, and the night had changed its mind about letting us see edges. Arjun, our youngest, made the mistake that all the brave make. He imagined a name. He didn't say it. He thought it. The tone lifted a fraction. The cursor sidled toward backtrace, like a nervous animal deciding which way to bolt. Arjun closed his eyes and counted silently to 8. The tone regained its old, distant patience. "Good," I said. "Eyes forward." The intercom, half a beat later, approved. We survived the shift that way, moving forward 10 minutes at a time. The wedge gave up nothing but its existence and a taste for distance. The object dipped toward the horizon. Stars near the ecliptic brightened like gossip. For the last half hour, the wedge's outline on thermal was fainter, the tone more fatigued. It still erased, but less greedily. When we finally handed off to the dawn skeleton, the room behaved like a room again. The star tracker solved. The SNR returned. The door chime returned to up, down, satisfied with its day's strange lesson. A stack of thermal prints lay by the keyboard. On top, in glitch font, "Do not name the follower." I dismissed the kids with the only ceremony I know. "Well handled," I said. "Go home and choose verbs." They understood. Verbs are what survive nights like this. What followed is what always follows behavior the world doesn't want. I wrote a summary that contained no nouns, only artifacts. Wedge-like occlusion behind the coma. Background stars removed and restored. Orientation fixed to us, not sky. Zero error tracker plus no sky. Thermal cold at fixed separation. Cursor anticipates quarter beat. Tone not breathing, but counting. 11-second open lines with no caller. Printer warnings without request. Building chime reverse when we intended a rear trace. I attached 3 frames forward of the coma and no frames behind. I kept "do not name the follower" out of the subject line. I sent it up. By lunch, I had 2 replies. The first was short, polite, and dangerous. Appreciate the thoroughness. Likely tracker overfit/algorithmic occlusion. Please refrain from speculative language in future logs. No mention of the radio lines, the printer, the thermal cold, the cursor that knows a fraction of a second before we do. The second came from a colleague who signs their emails with a season instead of a name. Receive only. Keep eyes forward. They like the tail because we like the tail. That afternoon, a digest went around, a friendly myth-busting bulletin with 3 bullets and a graphic. Tail illusions caused by sensor bloom. Star loss explained by transient clouding/smoke plume. Thermal offset due to calibration drift. They put it on a pastel background to make it less rude to our night. I printed it and taped it to the back of the analog clock that had stopped years ago at 3:03, a superstition I allow myself when logic wants to be alone. For the next week, the phone on the wall in the lab rang for 11 seconds at 2 impossible minutes past the hour. And when we picked up, the line stayed open with a carrier that tasted like the tone had been here and gone. The logs dutifully wrote duration and no timestamp. Twice the building chime played down, up even at noon, even when no sky was available for the wedge to practice absence upon. On 2 nights, the wedge returned like a rule that didn't care that the book had been rewritten. Each time, we followed the mantra the intercom had borrowed from me. Each time it watched us not watch it. The theory we wrote belongs to the kind that gets buried because it refuses to let people keep their favorite nouns. Here it is, naked as a scar. 31 Atlas is being followed by something that watches attention. It keeps distance. It keeps angle. It refuses parallax. It removes stars only while behind the coma and restores them after. It learns the timing of your room. It prefers your intention over your camera. It tests whether you will let your eyes move and whether you will let your mouth feed it a name. We didn't. Not that night. We behaved. You came for a climax with sparks and shouting. I give you one with rules and silence. If you ever see stars go missing behind a bright traveler while your instruments swear perfection, if your thermal draws a moving cold, If your cursor moves a quarter beat before you do, if a printer you didn't touch spits a line that tells you to stop being clever, and a voice in your room that sounds like yours returns what you already know, this is what you do. Eyes forward. Do not trace the tail. Do not name the follower. We never turned to find its face. That might be why I'm here to speak in mine. If this shape has visited your sky, erase stars, cold wedge, parallax that fails 11-second lines, intercoms that borrow your patience. Leave me one word, so I know we weren't measured alone. Ice forward. No coordinates. No software. No communities that would go hunting for something that prefers not to be found. The wedge will do what it came to do. So will the object that brings it. We will watch without feeding. We will move without naming. And we will let the night keep what it wants.